This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. 2 days ago, I released a video breaking down Prince Harry's comments on the meta verdict in New Mexico. Not shocking, it received almost no coverage, buried under the deliberate distractions being pushed to keep everyone looking the other way. And in that video, I laid out just how dangerous Harry and Meghan's push in America was to remove anonymity online, as well as control the algorithms to be able to control the information, especially information that was being pushed out to kids. I talked about this here in this video a couple days ago. While the public remains distracted by BS, American freedoms and right to privacy are quietly being stripped away. Yesterday on X, outspoken free speech lawyer Preston Byrne posted this article by an independent publication for document-led investigative reporting called Effort News. Now you can imagine that this post caught my attention because he writes, "We have identified a coordinated operation to influence American lawmakers by 5 foreign NGOs and their U.S. affiliates. These NGOs have converged upon a unified strategy, use the rhetoric of child safety to end digital anonymity." So naturally, I clicked on it because it sounds very much like what we've been talking about here on this channel. Reading this article last night made me physically sick, because not only is this effort to remove anonymity further along than all of us has understood, but it also validates Prince Harry's involvement quietly here in the United States. There are still so many out there who don't take Harry and Meghan seriously, and I think that's all by design. Many people still see Harry and Meghan being too stupid to be able to pull anything off here in the United States. And that may be true. Harry and Meghan, both of them might be intellectually stunted. However, it does not take away the fact that they have money, as well as they are still connected to the British royal family. Say what you want about Harry and Meghan no longer being a part of the institution, they're still on the website, and Harry's still listed as Counselor of State. And until some government official does come out and say that Harry is no longer being recognized as a prince of the realm, you can't rule out Harry and Meghan's access to influential people. You just can't. In fact, we see that they have access to them. You really think Dr. Tedros from the World Health Organization is working with Harry and Meghan because he really believes that they are humanitarians? Come on. They have the global recognition because of the family that they're tied to. You can't ignore that fact. But also in this case, from the very beginning, I told you that the monarch is in full support of this globalist agenda, and that includes getting a handle of the online space. Let's go through this article because I want you to understand why this is so disturbing. And this affects every single one of you listening here. Hit that like button and double check to make sure that you're still subscribed, because we all know these are topics that YouTube doesn't like to recommend to anybody, especially concerning Papa Chuck. All right, get comfortable and let's get into this. Headline: The UK's war on anonymity has come to America. Well, no shit, Sherlock. The NGOs behind Britain's digital ID laws are targeting American state houses. Now, if you've been paying attention and following me over the years, I bet you would be able to guess who these NGOs are. The only clue I'll give you is that Harry and Meghan have been aligned and deeply involved with all of them that are about to be mentioned in this article. The article kicks off: An effort investigation has identified a coordinated operation to influence American lawmakers by 5 foreign non-government organizations and their U.S. affiliates. These NGOs have converged upon a unified strategy. Use the rhetoric of child safety to advocate for digital ID laws that would prevent adults from using internet anonymously. In Britain, they succeeded in passing those laws. They now form part of a system which surveils, arrests, and jails political dissidents. Digital ID laws are a key component used to strip Brits of internet anonymity, an otherwise effective technological countermeasure against authoritarianism. British NGOs are now replicating their playbook in the United States of America, attempting to pass a patchwork of digital ID laws in 21 states and the U.S. Congress. The first NGO to be mentioned here is British NGO 5 Rights. I think many of you recognize that name, as well as Baroness Beeben-Kedron, and Prince Harry's relationship and alignment. I've been talking about five rights for a while, inquiring why do we have a member of parliament advocating for laws here in the United States? That's like my biggest gripe here. Why are we allowing this? So according to this article, Five Rights Foundation is registered under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, otherwise known as FARA, but has failed to file critical information related to its foreign leadership. The next NGO that we have here is the Center for Countering Digital Hate, otherwise known as the CCDH. Now that one should be very familiar to you. It was founded by British labor consultants Imran Ahmed and Morgan McSweeney. Remember, this is the arrogant piece of shit who is suing the U.S. government for violating his First Amendment rights. Currently, the United States is unable to deport him. Now, I've shown you the documented evidence around Harry and Meghan's involvement with the CCDH and their participation in those pressure campaigns being placed on social media companies to cancel conservative voices, as well as voices who were critical of Harry and Meghan, essentially conservative voices. This had a damning ripple effect because when it came to information about the Hunter Biden laptop story and you had these conservative outlets wanting to report on it, they weren't getting seen because they were being suppressed, if not deplatformed altogether. But it wasn't just the election in 2020, it was also with COVID, climate change, and the rest of this globalist agenda. If you pushed back on it, you were canceled. The CCDH had a tremendous amount of influence within the Biden regime. And we know without a shadow of a doubt that Harry and Meghan were involved with all of that. As evidence with Harry and Meghan's direct involvement with all of these entities that you see on this censorship industrial complex infographic. For those that are just now catching up, the evidence is out there for everybody to see, especially tying Harry and Meghan to the CCDH, showing up in the whistleblower documents that had been leaked from the CCDH to kill Musk's Twitter. Now, for the stupid people in the back who continue to keep saying that my theories haven't proven anything because I've yet to produce any type of evidence, well, you're looking at it right now in your face. This is from the CCDH leaked document that shows Archwell and James Holt were clearly involved with this organization. If that's not enough, I've shown you many times before that Archwell tied itself to one of the lawsuits in California along with Five Rights, seen here. Now, if that evidence doesn't do it for you, then here is my playlist of over 150 videos talking about this subject and the ways that Harry and Meghan have been involved here and the harm that they deliberately caused to innocent people. I just don't understand the planet that some people are rocking on right now. How can anybody at this point in the game say that Harry and Meghan have no influence or involvement with this stuff is beyond me. If you're waiting for the mainstream media to confirm everything that I'm telling you, you're going to be waiting a long time because they're not going to report on it because they were complicit in all of this. But I digress. Back to this article. CCDH has already been involved in censorship scandals in the US and UK. They led a boycott campaign against X immediately after Elon Musk's acquisition, sponsored major censorship legislation in the UK, and frequently hosted events in which US and UK government officials advocated for censorship. So just to understand what you're looking at here, this table shows Lot 16, which is tied to the CCDH, but it's not an arm or subsidiary of CCDH. It's an independent lobbying firm that the CCDH retained as a client for a period in 2021 to 2022, specifically on the misinformation, hate speech, platform accountability issues that form core parts of CCDH's so-called mission. America First Legal, a law firm connected with the Trump administration, accused CCDH of violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, in 2024. Moving on to Five Rights Foundation, the organization that Harry and Meghan are also involved with. AB 2273 was co-designed by Five Rights Foundation, a foreign principal that paid to lobby for AB 2273, according to their own FARA registration filing. Five Rights is the leading NGO promoting the British Age-Appropriate Design Code, AB 2273 model, across all American states. Five Rights engaged on 42 bills across 18 states, 11 of which have become law. Now, according to this, Five Rights paid Capital Connection $50,000 to lobby in the California legislature from May to September 2022. They did not disclose this lobbying on behalf of a foreign agent until 2024, over a year after the bill they lobbied for passed. Now, here's the question, folks. I wonder if Five Rights have paid Harry and Meghan for their so-called partnership. If that is the case, then it should be reflecting on some type of fair registration. Or are they not disclosing it? Now, I don't think that they would use the name Archwell. Perhaps maybe they used one of their shell companies to pass this money through. And it's likely they didn't report it. So for the special people who are watching this channel, you know what to do here. In their disclosure, Capital Connection denied that Five Rights was supervised, owned, directed, controlled, financed, or subsidized by a foreign government, foreign political party, or other foreign principal. They did not submit any information for question 12, which could have clarified what level of control Kidron, their founder and then director, had over Five Rights. Five Rights is a British nonprofit founded by Baroness Beban Kidron, who sits in the British House of Lords, the upper chamber of the British Parliament. Despite the British government using these laws to target political dissidents, Baroness Kidron and Five Rights now advocate for VPN bans, a change that would add the UK to a small number of authoritarian regimes, Russia, China, and North Korea, that ban VPNs. Harry and Baroness Beban Kidron apparently have a very close relationship. Back in 2022, Hello magazine decided to publish this article about their friendship. So it should be no surprise that Five Rights Foundation was also a part of putting together this Fugazi Parents Network and promoter of this lost screen memorial facade. The whole thing is such a con. But moving on, a central node in that British censorship ecosystem is the Institute for Strategic Dialogue. They have contracted with the U.S. State Department, European Union, and several UK ministries for a total of over 17 million U.S. tax dollars. And who are Harry and Meghan paying over $140,000 from the Institute of Strategic Dialogue? Well, that would be Jory Craig. So this woman, who was heavily involved with the DNC, as well as mentioned in the Missouri versus Murphy, aka Missouri versus Biden landmark lawsuit, had been heavily aligned with Harry and Meghan in putting out those Fugazi reports on insight to the mental health of the youth and social media. Remember those insight reports? All now have been scrubbed from the Archwell Fugazi Public Charities website, otherwise known as Archwell Fugazi Philanthropies. Well, anyway, this woman is heavily involved with this shit as well. Says here, Internet Strategic Dialogue's contracts explicitly describe a mission to control internet speech. In the reports and policy recommendations produced for these contracts, ISD conflates political dissent with misinformation, extremism, hate speech, or even violent extremism, both justifying and enabling censorship by governments, foreign and domestic. So now when you take a look at the contract descriptions, specifically with the U.S. Department of State, where it says young people's online and offline initiatives, well, what do you think those insight sessions and reports were about? Where do you think they got the money from? The way that I see the laundering of U.S. taxpayer dollars with Harry and Meghan, it's possible that Harry was dipping his toe in both countries, not only in the United States, but also in the UK through an organization like Five Rights or ISD, getting money from the U.S. government to the UK and then from the UK into Harry and Meghan's pocket. You know, when we look at this whole Megxit lie, otherwise known as the con of the century, Meghan Markle had to have been paid a lot of money to go through with all of this. She had to have been. So don't think that this woman is going to be broke or they're running out of funds. They were backed by some deep pockets, and those deep pockets could very well tie to the U.S. government as well as the institution in the UK. And from what it's looking like, that might be the case. But moving on, ISD has lobbied federally in the United States. Their report states that a majority of board members sit on both boards so that decisions can be taken collectively. Reset Tech is yet another global consortium with overlapping leadership. Reset describes its own governance as follows. We are governed by a board of directors that oversees our global operations. Reset Tech Action, Reset Tech's US 501c4 affiliate, spent $1.3 million lobbying Congress and state legislators from 2024 through Q2 2026. Effort found significant overlap between Reset Tech and Five Rights. 4 of 6 bills it lobbied for are bills Five Rights engaged with, including AB 2273. The bill Five Rights also lobbied for. And how are Meghan and Harry aligned with Reset Tech? Reset Tech receives funds from the Responsible Youth Power Fund that Harry and Meghan have been a part of with Omadar Network. Do y'all see what a nasty little political web this is? But oh no, the royal family doesn't get involved with politics. Why do you think the royal family is so heavily involved with all of those charities? They're not doing this out of the kindness of their heart. They're doing it because of the soft power it brings to influence government policy and bypassing the whole democratic process. Do you honestly think that these globalists care about giving the people a say or choice in the matter? I mean, seriously. Why do you think all of Papa Chuck's realms are all having the same problems at the same time, especially around pushing this climate agenda? Who do you think is behind it? Anyway, finishing this off, Reset Tech is also tied to ISD through their EU affiliate, Reset Tech Germany, which received 4.9 million euros from the EU government as part of the consortium led by ISD. In theory, there may be age verification laws which do not contribute to authoritarian control of speech. However, when foreign principals are lobbying for age verification laws during a time when those laws are being used to suppress political speech in their home countries, it cannot be a surprise if those laws are used for the same purposes in America. Of course, they want to do it here. They got a taste of how controlling information online could drive the behavior and outcomes that they wanted to see, like stealing the United States 2020 election. And then, when the autopen got installed into office, ramped up the censorship around COVID. Do you know how many lives were lost as a result of information being suppressed? Truthful information being suppressed that we now know could have saved lives?
There is always a risk of a spontaneous miscarriage. There's always a situation. There's always situations when women get illness that could be preeclampsia, things like that. However, when you look at the unvaccinated versus the vaccinated, there is absolutely no increased risk of that.
It's very, very clear that it is safe in pregnant women. Right now, we don't see any red flag signals among those thousands of people who have gotten vaccinated while pregnant. Approximately 20,000 pregnant women have been vaccinated with no red flags. If you look at the tens and tens of thousands of pregnant women who have gotten vaccinated, there's no safety signal of concern at all.
If a pregnant woman gets infected and gets COVID-19, there are serious consequences for the pregnant woman herself, for the pregnancy, and for the fetus. There's no indication whatsoever that there's any increase of any adverse issues in a pregnant woman who was vaccinated compared to a pregnant woman who wasn't vaccinated.
You can explain to concerned moms and dads to be, and as a father yourself, why you are so confident that the vaccine is safe and effective to get when you're pregnant, and why should moms not worry so much?
The overwhelming balance of risk benefit is in favor of pregnant women getting vaccinated against COVID-19.
Allow me to leave you with the reason why these people like Harry and Meghan and all of these organizations who are trying to take everybody's rights away is what they did during COVID. During the Missouri versus Biden lawsuit, as Eric Schmidt says here, the Biden CDC was sending daily emails to Facebook demanding they censor posts that raise concerns about the COVID vaccine's impact on pregnant women. By controlling the information, the amount of miscarriages that happened as a result of those vaccines is unforgivable. Aside from that POS Mark Zuckerberg, who from Facebook was also part of making those decisions and silencing voices? Well, that would be no other than UK's Nick Clegg. Yeah, same Nick Clegg who's on the King's Privy Council, the same Nick Clegg that James Holt worked for. So now when you look back, especially during the time when Meghan and Harry were still considered working royals in 2019, who do you think was behind getting all of those Facebook users, as well as other social media platforms, to take down people's voices that challenged or questioned Meghan's magnancy? It was the palace. The palace was behind getting people censored. So when you look at Harry and Meghan's involvement with this nasty little web, who do you think opened all of those doors? It wasn't just the Democrats here in the United States, because the majority of these organizations that Harry and Meghan heavily aligned with are from the UK. The palace, in my opinion, never left the side of Harry and Meghan. They're the people that were there when they were working as royals, like Beth Hurley, James Holt, Baldy, Harry's bodyguard or security guy. Anyway, the last point that I will leave you here with is that I understand it's very hard to reconcile the amount of lies that have been told to the public about this couple, and the royal family have been complicit in it. And I think the most upsetting thing about all of this is that we don't want to think that these people don't care, but clearly they don't. They think that their way is the right way. This is the only way. The people that are pushing for the removal of anonymity through these age verification laws are not going to be following up to see how effective these laws are and if it's really solving the problem, because they know it's not going to do a damn thing to help keep children safe. This is really about controlling the algorithm and the information that these children see, as well as adults, right? Because the ultimate goal is to control the behavior and drive the outcomes that they want to see, such as with elections, or even worse, what we saw with COVID by putting poison into your body. They want mass psychosis. They want to be able to control how people think, what they're going to do, and then, at the same time, benefit themselves. You've got a lot of these lunatic globalists who are in favor of eugenics and depopulating the world. Anyway, not to go on about this, but you understand why this is serious. You see the progress that they're making here in the United States, and something needs to be done. I would love to know your ideas in the comment section below, because at this point, I'm kind of fresh out on what we should be doing. I know we have to keep talking about it, but who are we talking to about it? I can only go so far by putting this content together and putting out there. I mean, it's a lot of work. But what can people do outside of just crying and moaning and complaining about Harry and Meghan? Definitely share your thoughts and concerns below. And as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.